Man, I'm on the chase now, leave me on my own. I got a chance to break now.
Welcome back to Grnd. I'm your host, Mike. Today's guest is a registered nurse and a general contractor. I'll go ahead and let him introduce himself.
What's up, man? My name's Josh Gamboa. Like you said, I'm a nurse and a contractor.
So that's an interesting combination, a nurse and a contractor. What came first?
So I've always done construction because of my family. My grandfather was a general contractor. My dad was a union carpenter, and then ended up going off on his own and starting his own business.
Okay, so the construction was always kind of there since you were a kid, basically. You're
Right.
probably working on a job site when you were like 5.
Right, pretty
Type
much.
of thing. So then where does nursing fit into that equation?
So that was just always, construction was always there. But my parents always pushed me, you need to do something. So I always thought I was going to do something medical and wanted to be a doctor, but that just didn't seem more realistic, as I got older. So still trying to stick with medical and then still trying to keep that doctor route open. I thought nursing would have been a good fit, but because especially being in high school and shit, you're like that's kind of girly. Nursing, why the hell would you do that? Like, of course all the friends like gay, everything, all the teasing and all that, but
The stereotypes.
right. So I ended up applying for an Army nurse scholarship, which to me made it seem a little more cool, manly, like still get to do that little childhood, like, yeah, Army,
Yeah.
So I went that route. That didn't last too long, but
And that was right out of high school?
yeah. So in high school, what really happened was I was stressing, man. I didn't know what the hell I was gonna do for college. Like, we're about to graduate, and then this one dude in my class said he had a full ride Army scholarship, and like, no offense to whoever that was, but I just was like, dude, I'm definitely more book smart than this guy. Like, how the hell he get a scholarship over me? So he told me it was through Army ROTC. I looked it up, and then I found out that there was a specific Army nurse scholarship, which was a whole separate pot of money, and I just was like, oh, perfect. That, like, there you go. I get to stay in the medical field. I get to do Army, and I got my school paid for.
Gotcha. So that was like, you wanted to do it, but you weren't sure how the money was going to come and all that kind of thing. So
Right.
that guy mentioning his scholarship kind of opened your eyes to going that route.
Like, until that point, you look up scholarships, you look up everything. Like, no one ever told me
Anything about that?
freaking ROTC or Army ROTC. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that within high school where it's like there's a lot of options, but you don't get told a
Right.
lot of that stuff.
Right.
So from there, obviously, if you're doing the Army, so you had to join the Army, correct?
So the way it would have worked was they pay for 4 years of for your bachelor's, and then you would owe 2 years for every 1 year. So it would have been like 8 years back, but it could have been done in like different variations. You could have done active for 4 years, gone reserves, National Guard, a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
Gotcha. So they'll pay for your schooling up front with basically like a promise of I'm going to do this long term for you guys.
Correct. And then you would come in as an officer.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah, because you went to school first,
Right.
right? So basically you would go not enlisted, it'd be an officer. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So, like, what happened there?
So that lasted not too long. Got into the school. I ended up going to University of San Francisco. They did have like a really good nursing program, and so that school, the Army scholarship only paid tuition or room and board. It wasn't both.
It wasn't both.
But the school was like, hey, if you are coming on the scholarship, we'll cover the other end.
Gotcha.
So I just was like, and there was only a couple schools that
Had that program.
had that program. So I just, I was like, dude, I'm going for the money. So I ended up going to the University of San Francisco, and again, even more freaking, like, you could, what I mean, high school boys like, bro, he's gonna be in a nursing program in San Francisco, super gay, like. But it is what it is, I couldn't really look at that. I had to think about, I'm getting school paid for, like.
Looking at a big picture thing, not juvenile kid BS.
And ultimately, like, when I looked up all the like facts and everything, it was like the school was already. It was like, you're looking up university reviews, and it was like, oh, this school's great for boys. It's a 70 to 30% girls to boy ratio. And I was like, hell yeah. And then I'm like, nursing, it's like 9 to 1. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm about to be surrounded by women. I was like, this is going to be good.
Yeah, the odds were in your favor pretty much
hell
at that
yeah.
point.
I just was like, you can call me gay all you want, buddy. We'll see who's gay at the end of this.
So, going up there, how was that? I mean, was that the first time you were kind of away from home for that long?
Yeah. So it was straight out of high school. So I was like, I didn't even turn 18 until after high school. So in the summer, and like to be honest, I was pretty much like straight edge in high school. Like I did bad stuff. I did things, but I just really didn't party. I really didn't smoke or drink. Do no drugs. So shoot, man, it's like when I got to San Francisco, it was just the whole, another world. Like, no parental guidance. In the beginning, I had like, you have your school paid for, you got money for like food, at the school, and then the Army was giving you book money and spending money. Dude,
So you were good.
Bro, it was awesome. It was like $1,200 came into the bank account at the beginning of the semester to buy books. One book was bought. I don't know what happened to that $1,200, but one $50 book was bought.
Yeah, you had one book to show for it.
Yep.
So that was about it.
And that money was gone, dude. I mean, it was a great time. Ultimately, I had a roommate who ratted me out for smoking weed, which was kind of lame, but it is what it is. So lost the scholarship. I still got to stay in school. I just buckled down. The next year, the first year was like cool, I'll party. Got straight C's, like barely passed those classes, and then the next year, and then the rest of the 3 years, and it wasn't really even that crazy. I mean, I'm not like a big nerd or anything. Like I really like don't study that much. Just made it happen, passed the classes, and
well, obviously with that, it's like,
yeah.
it's something obviously you were passionate about, like helping people and being in that medical field. So obviously it probably became a little easier because of that.
No.
But you said you lost your scholarship, right? So at that point there's no money coming in for school.
Luckily I had decent grades, from high school. I had like high honors when I graduated. So before I had the scholarship, I did have like a good amount of money from the school and like from government grants and stuff like that.
Gotcha. So you just lost the like ROTC.
I lost the free money, all the free.
Gotcha.
I would have owed that money in a different way, but so then the next year I just had to do the whole, like everybody else, FAFSA. Just you claim what your parents are making.
Mm-hmm.
So luckily I did get a good amount of grants. The school gave me some grants and scholarships, and then I just took the rest on the loans.
Okay. So all in all,
just like,
you got some money through scholarship stuff, which is cool.
Yeah.
And then you had to take some loans out.
Yep, do the government loans. At one point, my mom did a private loan for me that I had to pay her back for it.
So I know one of the big things with college that's really talked about is the loans, right?
Right.
Like a lot of people are paying their loans off for years after. Is that something you're still taking care of, or is that already?
Luckily, I didn't have crazy amount of loans. It's still a good chunk. But luckily, nursing is one of those jobs where I do agree that a lot of college jobs, you rack up your debt and then you kind of come out like not even having a good job, or you're scrambling for jobs and you end up making not even that great of money. So nursing is one of those few jobs that you can get after your bachelor's 4 years, man. You can go out there and you can kill it, like, and then you can make, nursing is a huge range, all different types of nursing. So I mean, if you get into ICU, you're gonna be making more bucks than the med-surg nurse, med-surg or tele nurse, things like that. But so I was able to pay off my loans, and it wasn't like a huge burden. But yeah, I mean, it took me some, like, I don't know, 4 years, 5 years.
Which isn't bad. That 4 or 5 years isn't bad at all. Cause I mean, I've known people that are paying 15 years later, they still have debt on their student loans.
And then it all depends how like in the beginning, I just doing the minimum, like barely paying the interest, and then luckily my mom just cracked down on me. I was like, "What are you doing, bro? You're making this money, just pay that shit off." Like, I'm like, all right.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, because usually there's an outside influence that's kind of like, all right, you need to just take care of this now. Like, you're making enough money. I know you want to spend the money, but take care of this, and then the rest will follow.
Exactly. And I try to do that like with a lot of things, but when she's pushed me to do that same thing, your car payments, your loan, all that. So it sucks in the beginning, but you end up, once it's done, now you can put all that away that you're paying for bills, just going straight to your savings.
Yeah, and then you're not just paying the minimum amount, and your interest rates just, adding money. Adding money every freaking month. Okay, so you're in school. You're able to get those grants and everything. Obviously, it's a 4-year.
Yeah.
4 years, right? So you did your first year with ROTC thing, and then the last 3 were with the grants and all that.
Yeah.
So was there any sort of like, I guess like job help programs on that, where like they helped you get a job after you you graduated with your nursing degree?
Oh no, not really. Like the school in itself was a good name to have on your resume. But I don't think that there was like a direct influence. Like the school got me a job in any way.
Well, I just know like some places they'll have like, basically there's like they'll have some sort of like job programs where they work with certain companies or whatever it may be that they help them find jobs if they're hiring. But it wasn't like that with that. It's just you kind of had to do your own thing.
Yeah, no, it really wasn't like that. Other nurses that were in my program and stuff, they were smarter than I was in the sense like a lot of them took like technically after like your second year nursing you have the qualifications to be a nurse assistant, a CNA.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of nurses, their second year nursing, then they apply to become like nurse assistants while they're still in nursing school. I did other odds and ends, but like reflecting back, I'd be like, damn, that would have been a good job, because imagine you're a nurse assistant, and now that I'm a nurse, that happens all the time. The CNAs, they're in school. They tell the managers know about them. They've been working there for a few years or whatever.
Already made a name for themselves.
Yeah, they already know. They're like, oh, they're hardworking. They're this, they're this. So then by the time they get their license, the manager's like, hey, if we have a position, like, it's yours.
Yeah, they pretty much like hired on the spot almost,
right.
Just because they know the face, they know how they work.
Right.
There's no guessing game or anything to it. So, you graduate. What was that first nursing job like?
It was really fun actually. It was so they tell you when you're in like nursing school, you got psych and then you got your medical nursing. A lot of people hate psych. You're dealing with drug addicts, you're dealing with mental health, you're dealing with a bunch of stuff. So, a lot of people in general, but like the girls get, they're just like afraid of it. You got violent people there. Mm-hmm. So, I always did like it, but they kind of tell you don't want to be a psych nurse at first. Like you want to get in medical, because then if you start off in psych, you won't. It's gonna be harder to switch back into medical. Like it's always easy to go medical back to psych.
Gotcha.
So that was kind of like what we were taught, but then I just couldn't turn down the job, man. Like right after nursing school, one of my friends goes, "Hey, you want a job at this psych clinic? We're paying X amount of money," and I was like, "Oh my god, hell yeah!" Like and then I went from like my minimum wage hour job to that, so It just was like no brainer. I was like, I don't care about the whole psych medical. I'm taking that money. Let's go.
Yeah.
And it was super fun. Did it for like 2 years. Worked in what's it called? It's called a crisis clinic.
Okay.
So it's a 24-hour crisis clinic, and cops would bring people. Dudes would just come out of their minds, like try to check in, So it was fun, good experience. Got to see a lot of crap.
Yeah, I'm sure in that sense, right? I get where they say like it's easier to go to medical, and then if you go psych, you can always come back. But I bet you learned a lot just from seeing that side of things, where it's just you're dealing with a lot of different, mental states and personalities, and I'm sure that opened your eyes a lot.
Yeah, it really did. Then I worked in the community. I also worked at so right out of nursing school, I ended up getting 3 jobs, all like per diem, like on call. So I worked at that psych place. I worked at a drug and alcohol detox, and then I ended up working up at a primary health clinic, like as a triage nurse. So that was like me trying to get, like after a couple of years of doing the psych, I ended up trying to go medical, switch over. But yeah, you definitely see a bunch, dude. Like seeing people really go through like a hard detox. Just wild. It's just wild, yeah. People hallucinating, people like actively like hallucinating, seeing things, hearing things in front of you, and you're just like trying to deal with that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's scary, sometimes it was funny, sometimes it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's everything.
All the emotions you can feel probably too at the same time. So you touched on the per diem thing right there. Mm-hmm. Can you, like, for someone that may not know kind of what that is, can you give like a brief little explanation on how that works?
So With nursing, you got your full time, your part time, and then your per diem. Your full time is going to be your 3 days a week, 4 days a week. Part time's twice a week, and then mostly everywhere does 12-hour shifts. And then per diem, it's every hospital has their own policy that you have to meet a certain requirement, like a certain amount of hours or whatever per their month or per their quarter, however they do it.
Gotcha. So would you say so you have like basically like your normal full time, your part time, and then your per diem is kind of like a contractor? Would you say like you're not hired technically, so you don't have like you're not getting the benefits or anything like that? Well,
so you give up the benefits for a higher hourly wage, yeah. Okay. So, depending on the situation, like, you're a young single person, like for me that always worked out great. It's like I'll pay my health insurance, I'll pay everything, and give me the money. But some, you got a family, you got kids, you got, you're married. That insurance, it's not longer just for you. Now you got insurance that's being covered by your employer for 3 or 4 people. Yeah. Heck yeah, man, it's a huge difference. That's a big plus, and some people just can't give up that benefit.
Which makes sense. Like you said, if you're young, kind of vibrant, not really having to worry about too many issues, you can kind of, you don't really have to worry about the insurance as much. So taking that bigger wage is going to be better for you. But, if you're in another situation, as just for people that don't know or kind of know the differences, that's good to find out.
Yeah. So and then I didn't learn about that until nursing, right? Like, yeah, they're like, you want to be you're like, we can only offer you per diem, so you also don't get like guaranteed hours. That's another thing. So per diem, you're like the first one to get cut. If they got to send someone home early or something, you're the first one to go home early. Usually you have like the shorter end of the straw.
Gotcha. You're like low man on the totem pole, but like you're kind of getting paid more in a sense, right? So it's, you may not get all the hours that but don't you have to, with that though too, don't you have to fulfill so many hours? Or is that only some places?
So that's what I was saying. Like every hospital is different. Like certain hospitals will tell you need to meet this criteria. Other hospitals will just give us your availability, and then we'll mark you down. But if they have to cut you that day, they'll cut you. Like, gotcha. That's been my experience. I've worked in a bunch of different places, and everyone's always a little different on per diem. Yeah.
So you're working the psych, you're working the alcohol, drug and alcohol. Right. Detox place, and then you had the other job,
right? Primary health clinic.
The primary health clinic. How long did that go on when you were working those 3 jobs?
I did the first 2, the psych and the detox, for about like 2 years, and then I worked the primary health clinic like really short before I went and applied at Duke in North Carolina, and I ended up getting the job at the interview. So I had to put in the 2 weeks notice, unfortunately, with that clinic that had just started,
So those were still in San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
You stayed in San Francisco after school, right? And you worked those jobs there, and then now you applied to North Carolina.
Right. So now I gotta freaking move across the country. I got this job. The pay is like way crazy. You're moving from San Francisco, like one of the top high paying, to freaking North Carolina. Like, it was just a whole nother game. I applied for the license out there. And then I just, I drove across. Did
you have to take another test or anything out there?
No, I luckily didn't. I think mostly they make you test. Like California will make you test if you don't have a California license.
Gotcha. So if you're coming into California with like a North Carolina license, they probably make them test. But going there, they were fine with you having that. Okay.
I just applied. You just do the application. Do whatever steps they want you to do, pay the money, and boom, you got a license.
Gotcha.
And then North Carolina is part of a compact state, which is a cool thing. The compact states made an agreement that if you have it's a certain amount of states, I don't know how many states it is, but if you get a license in that compact state, you don't need to apply for another license when you go to any one of those other states that are in that compact.
Oh, gotcha. So it's like a group of states that have agreed that, like, okay, we all
share a license.
Yeah, we're all we all agree on the, whatever criteria that it meets. Like, you're good throughout here. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty cool, but I let that license expire once I left North Carolina. I was like, whatever, man. I'm back in California. I'm good.
So, all right, so you drove across country?
Yeah, I drove across country. I got played, man. Duke was like, we'll give you $3,000 sign-on bonus, or we'll pay for all your moving expenses. And I was like, I'll take that bonus, man, all day. So I just jam-packed as much as I could into SUV, and was like, cool, I'll just go out there with this. I'll buy whatever out there.
Yeah.
But they paid me that freaking bonus with like my first paycheck, and it got like taxed a bunch, and like I probably saw like $1,500 with that $3,000. I was like, lies.
I mean, technically they paid you.
Yeah.
But
like
they put it in a way that
and again, like this is like, my first like adult jobs at this point. Like, I mean, I was working for 2 years, but like I never had got a bonus. Like, I don't know, those things get taxed differently. Like all this,
Yeah, it's all different. Without experiencing it, you don't
Right.
know what to expect, and then you know it's not a question you ask. Like, are you going to put that in my paycheck, or is that going to be different? Like,
Right.
how are you going to? Now you would ask that question. Then you were just like,
Right.
sweet, I get $3,000. Yeah, sign me up. Give me that.
And you don't know, it's like if the bonus, it gets taxed like 40%.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
Like, what? I had no clue about that. Like, I'm just thinking I'm gonna see 3,000 in my bank account, like straight up, like wrong.
Yeah. So, how was that change of pace from San Francisco to North Carolina?
Definitely different, for sure. Especially I went out there like right before Trump was elected, so just like it's a swing state, like everything out, it's like a super big deal, like, and it's the South, man. Like, I had patients in there talk about like they had slave, like they're like, my dad had a slave, or I had one patient, he said he had a weird name. I was like, how'd you get that name? And he said it was my dad's favorite slave.
Wow, that's
and I was
crazy.
just like, oh my God, dude, like the huge difference. There was a black nurse I worked with there, well, multiple black nurses, but this one nurse in particular goes into a patient's room, and the patient goes, yeah, I need my nurse, honey. She's like, I am your nurse. She says, no, like the nurse, the RN. She goes, I'm the RN. And she's like, oh, you're the RN? Oh, it's not going to work out, honey. She goes, don't take offense, don't take it personal. I just don't trust the blacks. And it's just like, what the hell?
Wow,
Like,
yeah.
how are you hearing this? Like, dude, you know what I mean? I think, what year was I out there? Like 2016, I think?
Yeah, not something you'd
Yeah.
expect, especially coming from California, which is such a diverse state.
Heck yeah, you're just like, what the hell is going on, man? Like, so it was a big change, but the hospital itself is like awesome hospital, huge hospital.
Yeah.
It's a teaching hospital. People come all over the world to like get surgery there because they're like top notch. So I learned a bunch there. Definitely, don't regret the experience. Yeah.
So not necessarily the best like social experience, but as far
Right.
as like what you learned as
Mhm.
from working there was definitely worth it.
Yeah, and then again, another thing to add to the resume, like Duke's a big name.
Yeah.
People see that on your resume and they're like, oh yeah.
I mean, I even know I'm not in that field, and I even
Right.
know that that's a big place for like you said, surgeries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I know they did.
A big medical center.
Yeah. So how long were you out in North Carolina?
Just, man, a year and 2 days. I came back ASAP.
To the T, a year and 2 days,
Yeah,
24 minutes, and
Yeah, I was out, man. Drove back across again. Did a little cross-country trip out of it. So that was fun, but thank you for the experience. Thank you, Duke. Put you on my resume, but back in California.
okay. So
Yeah.
back in California now. Did you have a job lined up before you left out there, or was it just at that point you're just like, I need to get out of here. I'm gonna take me a nice little road trip, take my time getting home, and then I'll find something when I get home.
Yeah. Also, my grandma was sick at the time. She ended up getting leukemia, so I just didn't really want to be that far away. So I moved back home. We dealt with all that. She ended up passing in 2018 from leukemia, but so I was glad I was able
To be home.
to,
for-
be home with her,
Yeah.
be with her at that time. And but no, I didn't really have no jobs lined up or anything like that. So, oh wait, I didn't have a job lined up, but I had already signed up with. I already knew my plan, which I was gonna do travel nursing.
Gotcha.
So
you had a
that's
game plan,
yeah.
just nothing that was set in stone.
Right. So, but the travel nursing, like, I was setting that up for even before, like, I think maybe like 9 months into working at Duke, because I already knew, like, hey, I got Duke on my resume. I started calling travel companies. They want you to have like a year experience before you can do that. So I just started calling them up. I was like, hey, like, how soon can you guys like accept me for an assignment? And that actually went to prove to show when I called this one recruiter. He was like, "Oh, you have 9 months experience? Yeah, that's not really. We'd like you to have a year." And I was like, I've been working at Duke, and he's like, "Oh, Duke? Yeah, I should have started with that. Yeah, I'll get you in."
So right away, I was like,
"Oh,
total change."
I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." He was like, "Yeah, just send me your resume, like blah blah blah." And so I had opportunities for the jobs to be lined up, and then that's a whole nother nurse field right there, travel nursing.
Well, I was gonna ask. So we talked about the like regular, the part time, and then the per diem. So travel is kind of like a per diem in a way, right? Or is it
travel
different?
nursing is,
or is it
completely
completely different?
It's contracted work.
So that's basically you're a contractor.
You're a contractor, yeah.
Okay.
So you don't work for the hospital, you work for the agency. You're hired by the agency, and then they'll just tell you like, "Hey, we got this hospital. They'll pay you this much. It's this many weeks, and like this is like the kind of floor you're gonna be on."
Gotcha. So they basically like you literally have a contract of like what you're gonna do for like that amount of time.
Right, and then you have all their rules, like, and then every agency's different. Some agencies, keep more money than other agencies. Some agencies pay you more. Some agencies have better hospitals but pay you less. So it's like you can shop all day for agencies.
Gotcha. So there's a lot out there. It's just would you give what sort of like advice would you give someone that's looking to go that direction as far as the travel?
Travel nursing is a joke, especially right now with COVID just happening. Like the COVID rate, I wish I was a travel nurse again right now. Like the COVID hazard pays were like out the roof, man. I mean,
really?
There was some places like if you were an ICU nurse, which I'm not, but if you were an ICU nurse, you'd make 10,000 a week. Like that's how much they were saying before, because it's like the hazard pay.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, dude, that's
because you're
crazy.
working with COVID patients, obviously, so they're giving you that little bit of money to or a lot of money to kind of offset that.
Yeah,
danger.
it's all over now, but I was just I'm like low key. I'm like I'm kind of tired of all this COVID stuff, but I'm like I have my 1 year experience in ER this year, so I was just like, hey, if COVID comes back around again, I got my.
So now you could do that.
Now I could do the travel nursing,
Gotcha.
right? Yeah, but we'll put that on the back burner for now. The rates are down anyways.
Hopefully we don't have a reason to need that. But I know what you mean. Where
right, that's like I don't want that, but if it did,
you're not
I'm jumping on it.
Yeah,
I'm jumping on that.
So basically, just do your due diligence when you're looking at like that travel type nursing. Just make sure you're getting with a good agency, I guess.
Yeah, and then. You have to understand it's a game. Like it's a game. You have the agency has their recruiters. The recruiters make money off of you.
The headhunters making money off of their.
Yeah. I don't know what headhunters.
Headhunters basically the same thing. Like recruiter.
Okay.
They basically like headhunters work. They'll work with like specific companies or whatever.
Okay.
And they'll recruit from. They don't work for any specific company. They'll get plugs from like
Gotcha.
I need a a general contractor or whatever.
Right.
Like, I know a guy, and they get basically referral money.
Right. So it's the same thing. They get the money off of you, but like you can just kind of like you gotta kind of tell them like the game too, man, because it's like I've pinned 2 different recruiters before. Where just like, hey, well, all right, you're offering me this much. Like this other agency's offering me this much. I'm gonna have to go with them, and then like literally they'll email you like the next day like. Hey, what do you know? Like, I was able to find another $600 a week in this contract somehow, and you're like, with what? Like, what the fuck changed, right? It's like, then it's like, obviously they're just like, okay, this is gonna be less profit for me, but let me keep this guy.
Yeah, so it's, they're playing the game, but you have to play the game as well. Don't fall for the little tricks, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and I had to learn that the hard way. I came up to the hospital, I'm thinking like, man, I'm making big bucks right now, like. And then the guy over here, we're doing the exact same job. He's like, hey, so how much is your contract? I'm like, oh, I'm making this much. He's like, oh, I'm making this much. And it's like $300-$400 more, $500 more. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like
doing the same exact job.
Dude, same thing. I was like, man, I got played, bro. I got super played. But, I learned it the hard way. And then.
I think that's to say with like almost any job, right? Like when you go in for an interview, even like at a standard, position, like. They're gonna obviously try to lowball you because they want to keep as much money as they can. But you gotta be able to battle that and know what you're worth and get to that point. But you don't learn that right away.
Right.
Everyone's green when they first go in and getting jobs and stuff. So you just kind of, you know, unfortunately, you jump on something that looks good, and then you realize later, like you did, and it's just like, oh, wait a minute, like I probably should ask some more questions before I sign this.
Right. Yep. Especially it's like when you're new to it, you're just like, hell yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Yeah, and just you know, more money than you've ever made before, and you're just like, sweet, yeah, sounds good. So you came back and did that. You had your kind of your game plan. What was there a specific place that you started at when you came back to California as a travel nurse?
So my goal was like, you know, everybody for nursing, you know, you want to get into Kaiser. So I just was like, all right, man, let's do travel assignments at Kaiser, and I jumped around to different couple Kaisers, and then I finally just applied one that I wanted to stay at, and I was able to get hired there as a staff.
All right, on.
And then I'm currently there as I ended up switching from like part-time to per diem, and then I'm also at a ER in a small community hospital in Whittier.
Is that per diem as well, or is that like
that's
part-time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I needed the training there, so.
Oh, that's right. Because you said you needed the ER, the 1 year of ER before you could go into like the ICU type.
Right.
Thing.
Well, to do like travel ER or, and Kaiser wanted me to have 1 year experience. They didn't want to train me, which that sucked. So I had to go get outside experience.
Gotcha. So working for them, they weren't willing to let you.
They weren't willing to train me, and they're like, we do a cross training program every once in a while. Like the last I heard, they did it like maybe 4 years ago. And they're like, yeah, we have no clue, and we'll do another one. I was like, okay, so my best bet is to go get outside training.
But at least with like even doing the part time, like it's only a couple days. I mean, granted, it's 12-hour days, so it's not easy, but I mean, you can kind of squeeze that in. I mean, obviously, you're working 3 jobs up in San Francisco at the time, so. You know, you could kind of squeeze it in and get the experience. I mean, it's going to be hard, but...
Yeah, well, and then that's why I made the switch to per diem at Kaiser, so that my hours weren't as obligated, and then I can pay, you know, I can prioritize the other hospital where I needed to get the training.
Gotcha. So you can turn down jobs at Kaiser if you needed to, like if you got to the point.
Well, now I just got to... Doing the minimum requirement for them is pretty easy. So if I do the minimum requirement for them, I can handle anything at the other job.
Gotcha.
And then if I want to, I can pick up extra at Kaiser.
Gotcha. So you kind of basically you can work it however you want to.
Yeah. So it's flexible, yeah.
So I guess that's one thing to say about it. It seems like it's a pretty flexible like
career
in a sense.
Yeah, that's the plus side with the 12-hour shifts, right? Like you do 3 days a week. If you can fit them, you got 7 days to play with those 3 days, you know?
Yeah. So with all that said and done, I know the general contracting came in around that time, right?
Yeah, so when I moved back home from North Carolina, my dad he's always done construction, but he was never a licensed contractor. He went from, he was a licensed carpenter, but not a contractor, and now he's doing contracting work, right? He's working, you know, obviously he does the work himself, but he's contracting out the tile, he's contracting out different things. And, so he has his crew. He already had his little crew set up. He started getting, you know, more high-end clients, more high-end jobs. And then some of these clients, now they're like, all right, dude, you know, we trust you, but there's no license to back you up. Like, there's a lot of money going into these projects. So he ended up partnering up with this dude who, when I moved back home and started working with him, I just didn't like him. He was like shady business ethics, and just all around not really like a cool dude. And so then my dad is doing all the work. This guy has a license, so he's getting a cut. And then because he's a license, he's like, he can kind of be like, I want this much for these jobs. And then my dad, you know, trying to keep his clients and keep all that, he's kind of paying this dude out for this license, and I just wasn't really cool. You know, I wasn't really down with that. So I paused nursing for a little bit, did the classes for the construction license, and took the test and passed. So, and then growing up, it was like, it wasn't that hard to study for it, because I mean, I had all this knowledge since I'm a kid. It was more I did have to study for the business law, like all that stuff. Like that was new, you know. Like
the license and bonds and
all
of that.
And then they have like all these terms and everything. So like that, I put in a little time to study, a couple weeks, just read over, make some flashcards, and then. But the test, it was pretty pretty simple. Pass it.
When you already had the experience, because I know they require to have like so much experience to take that test, right? Like you have to have like a year, or whatever it is, or 2 years, or 3 years, whatever.
You need another contractor to sponsor you, like. So it's kind of the same, like union work. A lot of times you need that sponsor, someone to vouch for you. So the same thing for the contractor's license. You need another contractor to vouch for you. So we had a buddy who ended up vouching for me for my experience, and he knows my dad. He knows me since we were kids.
So he knew that you guys knew what you were doing. Yeah. You just needed the help, just because unfortunately dad got into some business with a guy that wasn't really there for anybody else but himself. It seemed like he just wanted to collect some money. It
was working out for my dad at the time, but it just wasn't ideal. And then seeing the potential that we had, and then seeing like, like that's the only thing holding us back. Like, and I was like, let me knock this out. So
did you have a conversation with your pops before, like, you decided you were going to do it, or did you go to your dad and like, look, this is what we're doing. Like, I'm getting my license and we're moving forward.
I started just telling him like, yo, I don't like this guy. I don't like this dude. And then, my dad was like, well, this is kind of the price I'm paying for, like not being, not taking the test, not getting it on my own, blah, 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 blah. And then he finally told me, he's like, and then he goes, if you're serious about this and, you want to, like, he's like, I've always wanted you to work with me. So if you want to do this, like, get the license and we can be partners together. We don't need this other partner. Like, me and you will be partners. And I was like, oh, all right, hold on. That sounds kind of cool. And then, so I looked it up, and it was a little pricey to take those classes. So I'm like, what's up, pops?
We're covering half, right?
It's like the business needs to pay for this class, right? So he's like, hell yeah, man, I'll pay for it if you take the test. Let's do it.
So that's cool. So it wasn't necessarily that you had that in your mind to get your license. It was kind of more like you didn't like the dude, and your dad was like, well, this is our only option. If
he was just kind of like, look, man, I'm not getting the license. Like, I don't have time for it. I'm working nonstop. Like, blah blah blah. I don't have no time to study for this guy. Yeah. And like, English is not his like first language, so he's just like, it's just way more difficult for me. And he's like, if you want to get the license, go ahead and do it, and I'll share profits with you instead of the other guy.
So how long? When this was only a few years ago now?
Or maybe like 3 years now, 4. Maybe 3 years.
Like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Maybe going on 4 years. So how has that experience been?
It's
compared to your nursing, like with that, like how is that change of pace and?
It's at the end of the day, it's still like people. It's another people person, skills, communicating. You're like dealing with the client one-on-one. You're dealing with emails. You're dealing with all that. And it's a whole different aspect of managing your own small business. It's like harder than I thought it was going to be. Like it's a 24-hour job, like that's the one thing. Like I love being able to say, me and my pops are the bosses here. We can run things how we want. And that's like very appealing to me. And right now I'm in the middle of like trying to balance both. Like which one do I want to do more? Because the money with nursing is great, right? Like and then the other thing with nursing is I finish that 12-hour shift, I clock out, like that's it. Like
you go home.
I go home. I don't unless I messed up. I'm not hearing back from that job about anything. I'm not hearing from those patients. With the construction, man, you wake up, you're answering emails, you're answering phone calls, you're doing texts, you go to work, you're on the field, you're meeting clients in the afternoon for new potential jobs, you're going out to give estimates, you get home and then you got more emails or you got like customers like questions about this or like, hey, I got a leak or like, hey, this didn't turn out good. It's like, it's just nonstop. So it's kind of like a balance. I'm like, oh crap, where do I think I want to end up at? Like,
yeah. Like, I like the fact that I'm my own boss and me and my dad running this, but dealing with all the headaches is sometimes a little too much.
Right.
But with, like you said, with nursing, you get that punch out, go home, and then you're good until you got to go back.
But then you have the nursing, it's kind of like customer's always right kind of thing. The patient's always right. Well, depending on the hospitals, right? But like the Kaiser model, it's kind of like that. And but the growth potential is that like I'm only ever gonna make that much money, you know. If we do everything right with the construction company, you know,
Sky's the limit.
Yeah, everything goes well. Like, shoot, man, I might have my feet up in my own office at some point, you know, like just setting up like, you know, a cool day for myself, and who knows where that can go.
Yeah, so I guess that's one way to look at it. Your growth potential with nursing,
Right.
like you're only gonna hit like you're gonna hit a certain threshold, and you're gonna kind of stop unless you get
Right.
into like, you know, something different as far as nursing. Because I know like certain like ER like nurses or something, like I know they might get a little bit more money or whatever, but you're only gonna have that threshold. But with
Right.
the construction,
Like you can go like specialties and make more. So like, yeah, now I'm an ER nurse, so if I make that switch in my Kaiser job, yeah, I'll probably make a few bucks more. Lost my thought on that one. I forgot where I was going. Sorry.
No, but so basically, like you're saying is, you know, with the construction
Yeah.
company is kind of basically how you guys set yourself up is what
Right.
is
Right, and then also nursing is it's still a labor intensive job. There's plenty of days where my back is killing me. You know, even pulling up patients. Sometimes a patient will freaking fall on you. You're like holding everyone like their whole dead weight on you, like, and you got to put them somewhere.
and I'm assuming you being a male nurse, right?
Right.
You get called
Oh yeah.
and had to do that a lot because
Oh, yeah.
because of that.
Hey, we need help. Hey, Josh, can you help us over here? Hey, can you know? Any male in the hospital world's like, hey, we need help. We need help. With the heavy patients, with the
Yeah.
lifting, whatever. And of course we'll do it, but it, like I said, it does take a toll on you, you know, and especially if you're like little old lady nurse, you got that 300-pound dude, like,
Yeah.
yeah, she's not doing that by herself, and she tries, like she's getting hurt.
Yeah.
So, you know, and then with the construction, yeah, we're still doing, it's still labor, but you know, moving forward, we can become more of managers. Like as we get bigger, we can start managing more rather than
Physically working.
yeah, you know, swinging the hammer, getting on your knees there, and ultimately save your back.
Yeah, and like you said, you be able to get to a point where you can, you know, set yourself up in an office and you're just
Yeah.
basically scheduling your day out to like maybe meet clients and
Right, exactly.
you're not even, you know, go to the job site a couple times just to
Like,
check on things
yeah,
and then you're out.
supervise.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, at that point, like, it's kind of what you decide, right? At this,
Right.
like, you're kind of at a fork in the road
Right.
with what you want to do.
Where it's like, how determined am I? You know, at that point, like it's really all on me. Like the opportunities are there.
Are you leaning one way or the other at this point, or is it still kind of?
I'm trying to set up my nursing correctly still before I decide to put more hours into the company, the construction. But my goal would be to, like, I don't ever want to stop nursing. I don't want to lose my license. I don't want to lose my skills. But to slow that down, to put more full-time hours in the company and, you know, give myself a chance to see, like, where we can take that.
Gotcha. So you still want to have that your license for something
Right.
to fall back on, or you know,
Right.
just in case. So you want to meet like the minimum requirements or whatever,
Right.
so you can continue to get that. But you'd rather but you want to get to a point where you can put more time into the construction company.
100%, yeah.
How does your pops feel? Like, is he pushing for you to come more
Yeah,
hours
I mean-
there, or is he kind of just like waiting to see how you're gonna do?
Like my dad would obviously he would love for me to keep working with him. You know, he likes that we work together. And then he agrees with me too. You know, he backs me up, and but he does say like, yo, your nursing's always gonna be there. Like, you know, let's see how much we can grow this, because you know that's luckily, you know, we're in that position where we have the opportunity, and why, you know, I wouldn't feel bad if I went in my life and was like, damn, I didn't even try.
Like I didn't give it a
Yeah.
good run.
Yeah. Like I didn't
That's
try
a-
100%. Like yeah. Like it don't matter if we go out there and, you know, we fail. Like whatever. Like I don't see that happening. You know, knock on wood. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'd rather go out there and fail than have that regret of like, damn, I didn't even try.
Yeah, I think that's easy to get in that mindset of
Right.
like not wanting to fully try it because you're just like, I mean, I've been there in certain things that I've done where it's like I want to do this, but then you almost get hung up on like, yeah, but I don't really want to fail, but because I can easily do this,
No.
and then you almost like, you know, pause yourself because you're like, I don't know, never mind, like I'll stay where I'm comfortable
No.
because I know that I'm going to make my money here. But I think in your situation, it's kind of cool that you can set yourself up. You know, it may not be right away, and you may not be able to put like all full attention to the construction company, but you can get to that point where you can kind of set yourself up for success in that sense.
And then really, one of my nursing coworkers, he had like the perfect little saying for it. He said, it's paralysis by analysis, like, and then that just was like, man, that struck home with me. I just was like, damn, bro, like he wasn't even saying that's what I was doing. He just was like telling me like, hey, don't end up doing this. And I was like, oh man, I feel like I might have already been doing that.
Like I'm doing that right now.
Bro, you just described it so perfectly. Like I've been thinking about it so much, and he's just like, you just go for it.
I think a lot of people get into that zone where they're doing so much like looking or so much research on something where they get stuck in that they're literally only doing research and looking at what they could do, and you don't ever figure out like, or you don't take that first step.
I think everybody wants like that. People think you're gonna do the research, you're gonna put in the effort, the time, blah blah, and then you're gonna be like, cool, I got this 100% foolproof plan. Now I feel secure about it. And you're like, that's not gonna.
It never happens.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. You're just gonna have to go out there and do it.
There's always gonna be risk and everything.
Yep.
Like nothing's ever gonna be perfect. You can do the research because you want to know,
right?
Obviously, but yeah, don't get stuck. Like don't get hung up on that and not take the jump to do it.
Don't do anything, right?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people can agree with that. Like I mean, I've been there. I mean, even with these pallets and stuff that we've done,
right?
I was looking at them forever, just kind of here and there, looking at them, watching some YouTube stuff too, and I was just like, I don't know, man. And I ended up sending it to Alex, and he kind of called my bluff on it. Like, I'll go half on you right now. Let's go look at them on Friday.
Right.
All right, let's do it. And so it kind of pushed me to do it. And sometimes that's what you need.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of need that little push to go into the next step. Obviously, that's on a smaller scale from what you're looking at, but you know, kind of along the same lines.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of you told me about it, and I was like, let's do it, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know what the hell I'm doing, but let's do it. Like, let's try it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So that's cool that he gave you that advice. Like that's something that I've heard recently too about paralysis by analysis, where it's a
perfect little phrase.
Yeah. Is there any other things that any other key learning moments or whatever that you've learned through your years of like nursing that were like just stick with you and that you may reflect back or tell new nurses now, or you would tell a new nurse?
So like in nursing school, like anybody who's in nursing school has worked with nursing, whatever, like you always hear the fake it till you make it. Sounds kind of bad, but really I think it's pretty good. Like,
it's not, I don't want to, like, I know what you mean, because the fake it till you make it sounds bad, but it's not even that. It's like, be confident in what you're doing. More so than fake it till you make it, right? Because if you're confident, like, you know what you're doing, you went to school for it. But if you go in and you're kind of like, oh, can I check your blood pressure? Like, they're going to feel uncomfortable.
Right. Like for nursing it exactly like that. Like, now that been a nurse for a while now, like then I get students, right? And I always try to like tell them that, like, I'm like, hey, when you go in there, just like act like you've done this a million times. I'm like, cause what you're going to give off, like, you're the nurse, the patient's looking at you like, all right, these are professionals. And if you come in there like, hey, it's like, dude, you're setting yourself up for like failure. Like, now she has no faith in you. Here she has no faith in you. Like, you're nervous as hell. Just go out there and do it. And then, like, in nursing, you're not gonna do something, like, you're not gonna fake it to the point where you're like gonna hurt somebody. Like, if you really think you're gonna do something wrong or hurt somebody, like, don't do it. But like you said, you went to school for it. You've done simulations. You've done all this training, all this practicing. Like, go in there. If you messed up, so something like an IV, man, freaking the most experienced nurse will miss an IV. So why can't a student, So it's like, just go in there like you've done it a million times. If you miss, oh well, like, everyone misses. But if you go in there confident and you get it, like, you're gonna walk out of there freaking 10 feet tall. Like, hell yeah, I just got that.
I had a little funny story on that. Like, I was trying to become a firefighter at one point, and I went to go do my EMT stuff, and I got in. I was doing my schooling, and I had to do my clinicals. So I did my clinicals. What is it, St. Mary's? That's down in Long Beach. So I did my clinicals there, and it was like my second. I think I had to do 3 days. And it was my second day, and I was in there, and I walked in to discharge one of this lady from the ER. So I walk in, and I mean, I'm wearing my student sticker on my shirt, but I walk in, I'm like, all right, I just got to do some vitals, and you guys can get you guys out of here. No big deal. So I go and I, get her blood pressure, get her pulse, all, just, the normal vitals, note them down. And then I turned and I was like, all right, let me get this back to the nurse and we'll, get it in the books and then we'll get you out. And then the lady's like, oh, okay, like, starts asking me questions. And then she looks at my shirt and she goes, oh, wait, like, you're not a doctor?
No.
And I was like, no, I'm a student. Like, I'm just getting your vitals. And she was just like, man, the way you carried yourself when you came in here, like, you acted like you owned the place. But, like, to me, it was no big deal because I was like, I've gotten vitals on, in school and stuff. I've done it so many times. So, like, I wasn't nervous going in there. And I just, talked normal. But it was funny just because she said that. Like, and walking out of it, like you said, I felt like I was, like the big shit walking out of there. Like, she thought I was a doctor. Like, crazy. Obviously, she really didn't think that. But just the confidence that I had going into there. So, along those lines is just, you've done it. It's not a big deal.
And like you said, or like I said, like they're trusting you, right? So it's like you came in, you had the comments. She was like, oh, all right, yeah, this guy.
Yeah.
You got the uniform on, like you look like you fit the part, so they just believed it. Like,
yeah.
All right.
If I would have walked in like I was like, oh, so I'm gonna have to
book.
Like, yeah, it she wouldn't have had as much faith.
Yeah.
And, but I agree with that. I think that goes for any career too. Is the fake it till you make it thing is. Like you said, to a certain extent, obviously don't fake something you don't know what to do, but it definitely helps when you're confident. Other people are going to have more confidence in you.
Yeah, I mean, like I had a job I was definitely underqualified for. While I was in nursing school, I applied for an anatomy instructor. Granted, I had barely passed my anatomy class for nursing. I had like a C. So when I go to apply for this, or when I go to the interview, she was like, but it was for medical assisting, so the anatomy was going to be like less rigorous than it would have been for nursing. But still, man, I was like, bro, I got a C in this. How the hell am I going to be how am I going to teach this now to other people? But I went. They needed an anatomy teacher. She was like, do you have experience teaching? I'm like, not really. I was like, I'm a coach. I was like, I teach little kids things all day. Like, I know how to teach.
Yeah.
I've never been a teacher. And she was, well, what about your medical background? I was like, well, I'm a senior nursing student, so I've taken well more advanced class. But I just kept selling it like this was nothing,
Yeah.
I was like, even though I was like nervous to do it, but I just kept selling it like, yo, this class is nothing. Like, I can do this class with my eyes closed.
Like, I'm a senior. I've already gone through these classes. I'm good.
Like, girl, I'm taking care of patients at this point.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty much a full-time nurse. Like, just pretty much saying that. She just was, oh, great, all right. When can you start? And I was just like, oh, shit, I did it. Like, all right. And then here I was, man. Here I'm coming in, Mr. 21-year-old or, man, it was like 20 or 21. It was like, hey, Mr. Gamboa. It was like all the students were like even older than me. I'd have just lied, like didn't let them know my age for a long time. Yeah. And like that, I sold it. A lot of those students didn't know I was freaking younger than them.
But let me ask you this question. How much did that help you with like
I became like a way better like student and nurse. Like it was kind of crazy. As I was teaching, I'd be having like aha moments of myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh my God, I never understood this part when I was in class. Like, but as I was teaching it, it was like it made perfect sense.
Yeah,
so that was really cool.
That's kind of what I was wondering if that was the case, because I know in certain things, like for me, for my studying, like my mom was a teacher, so I wasn't the best student, and my studying habits weren't very good.
Yeah.
But I figured out early on that I'd have to read things, write them down, and I would have to teach somebody before I could like fully understand it, like when I was younger. So that was something that I had to do with everything for me to get it. So I was curious to see if that really helped you along the way, because I think that's one of the key things. Like, it's a good way to learn is by teaching somebody.
100%. And like it was funny, some students for sure like caught on to my like aha moments. They were just like, why do I feel like you had no clue what you were talking about until just now? And I was like, because that's exactly what happened. So shut up and listen, because I'm about to explain the shit out of this. Like,
but I got this now.
I got this right now, and I'm about to explain it to you because I got this. And it was cool. I did that for like maybe like a year and a half. Yeah, that was pretty fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So any other tips or info you'd want to give, maybe someone that's thinking about joining or becoming a nurse, like, understand that this is going to happen, but stay away from this. Anything like that stands out to you that you'd want to give someone advice for?
I think One thing that I've like heard, like there's like certain schools that nurses go to. Um, like I don't think ultimately like the school doesn't matter too much. Like your degree's your degree. I think so, and then I think some people might get hung up on paying more. So now you're gonna have more debt to get like into certain schools. Um, at like, yeah, USF was like a big nursing program, and like a lot of people know it, but like there I don't have like nothing memorable about an employer being like, oh wow, USF, like they're just like, oh okay, cool, great, you got your bachelor's, like
Yeah, so it's more so that you have a degree, not necessarily what
yeah,
school you went
like
to.
the most I've ever gotten for was like, oh wow, that's a good school. It's like yeah, okay, like that's it. Like I don't think it's ever helped me more than that, you know.
Gotcha.
So like I wouldn't go to like that one, trending school or popular school because like and it's like super expensive. And just going for it. Like again, like I think the biggest is just that analysis or paralysis by analysis. Like if you have a goal, go for it. Don't think about it too long, and but at the same time be realistic, right? Like
Do some research, but don't
yeah,
get stuck on it.
yeah. Like at the end of the day, nursing is still like a lot of people still say it's really difficult, like to go through the school and all that. So like just be realistic. Like if like hey, I'm really really bad at school, like all right, maybe don't do something that's gonna challenge you that much. And there's all different kinds of things you don't have to get stuck on one idea. Like
Yeah.
but if you think you can do it, then don't sit there and wait for it. Just knock it out.
So I know one thing we didn't touch on is so you went to college for your nursing degree, but isn't there's vocational schools, right, where you can go and
You can do LVN. Then you go. So that's another thing. Like if you want to be an RN, some people get intimidated and they're like, oh, I don't want to do the 4 years right away, and they go do LVN. I personally think that is like an extra step, like because then from LVN you still got to get like either the BSN or like the associates in nursing. So you might as well have just gone like and got the associates or started your bachelor's like instead of doing the vocational nurse if your end goal is to be the RN.
Gotcha.
Like if you're gonna be happy with being the LVN, then just go ahead and get your LVN. Like you still make cool money. There's still plenty of jobs. They work in clinics. Like Kaiser uses a bunch of LVNs. Like you can still have a good job, but if your goal is to get to that RN, I would skip that step.
So you skip doing like the vocational LVN school and just
Yeah.
go straight. And so there's no
Because that's another however many a year or 9 months. I don't know what the program is, but that's a debt that you have for that, plus the time you put into that, and now you still got to put in more time and debt to keep going for your end goal. Like you might as well have not done that.
Yeah.
In between.
Cut out the middleman and just go straight to it. But can you do vocational school for an RN? So like if you get your LVN, can you go back to like do they still have RN programs? But again, you're taking more time and it's probably more money to get the same result.
I just feel like it's an extra step you didn't need to take. Like, sure you'll be more prepared. Like if you did your LVN, I'm sure an LVN will be a lot more confident going into the RN program than someone with no experience going into the RN program. But is it worth the money and time you're going to put into it? Probably not.
But like you said as well, like how some people in college were doing is they were going through to get their RN and they were going to work in the CNAs.
Yeah.
So you're getting that experience in the medical setting, but you're still learning as you're...
Yeah, like if I could go back, I would have done that. Like
do that route.
Yeah, I wish I would have like in nursing school, started working in a hospital. Shoot, even if it was just like, even like if I didn't get the CNA, like I would even be there work as a janitor just to be like in the door in that hospital you want to work in.
Like getting or just some administrative job or whatever it may be that you're there and at least get your face seen and get the experience there.
Yeah.
So I guess on the same topic, but like on the construction side of things, now that you've been doing the contracting for a few years, is there anything that you've learned along the way that stood out or like any piece of advice that you'd want to give someone that's either looking to get their contractor's license or that has it newly?
So like for the class, like if you want to go get that license, just it's really only I think that one California state licensing, whatever it stands for, right? It's that government program, but I think they're really the only ones. Because when I went through the school, I looked up a bunch of different schools, and every single website, every single number, all got redirected to the same.
Right back to that one.
To that same people, So just you apply, you sign up for the program, you pay the money, you go to the classes. If you have construction experience, like it's doable. I just had the experience, like, again, I never worked like full time as a carpenter. No, I was always like just summertime on my pops.
Yeah.
But through the multiple years of that, I had enough knowledge in the construction field that all I really had to study was that business law. So yeah, it's definitely doable if you're in the construction field, you're good, that's where you're gonna be. Heck yeah, man, go. You don't even have to do general contract. If you're in electrical, you get your C10. There's licensing for everything, and like I think a lot of people want to be. Now that I'm in the construction world, like a lot of people do want to be a general contractor because they think like they see these huge big companies and they see like all these successful people, like, but you can be super successful in your trade.
Yeah, I know people that have had their tile setters license.
Oh yeah,
and made really good money.
I mean, we have our hot mop guy.
Yeah,
like you don't even think about that, but like it's like, the hot mop comes in. He comes in and out fast as heck, man. He comes in, sets up his paper, boom boom, has a tar, boards that thing, and he's like, what, I don't know, they'll charge you like any 300, 400 for a little shower pan.
Yeah,
they'll knock out they can knock out as many as they want in a day.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you spend 2 to 4 hours in one, like just fit that into your day. Work 12 hours, work 16 hours, man. You just killed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the whole week, right? You can just set yourself up
all week.
So,
and then, depending on how much you want to work, how far you want to drive, like where you want to go, how high end your clients are, like, so you don't just have to be a contractor. You can, in your specific trade, electrical, plumbing, like plumbers, man, you go to the city drain, you're digging, excavating, that's a 10,000 plus job right there. Like, and you'll do that in a day. So, I mean, you make money in construction without being a contractor.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of people get their mindset on, I want to become a GC, like the general contractors, that's where it's at. And they don't realize that, like as like subcontractors or whatever, like the smaller trades that, you're actually doing specific jobs. Even then, it's actually probably a little easier because you're only doing a specific job, right? You're not overseeing the whole project. You're hitting multiple projects in a day or whatever, or and you're just doing one thing and you're getting on to the next one.
One of my buddies that was in those classes with me, he was I'm following him on Instagram, and he's out in Beverly Hills, he's in the freaking beach cities, he's everywhere, and he has like massive projects, and he just got the C10, his electrician. But he started his company, his corporation. It was him and like a cousin or something. Now you look at him, he got like 4 or 5 guys working for him. He has multiple jobs open. I'm like, damn, dude, like, hell yeah, he's killing it.
Yeah.
So, it's dope, man. There's opportunity. Just go for it.
It's in your hustle, right? How much you're willing to grind it out and get through those hard days before you start seeing the results.
And how much dedication you put into it, like, and you got to put a little bit of money into it. Like those classes they kind of cost a little bit, but the door that it opens is awesome, right? Like, you're gonna have opportunities you didn't have. Like, I've got kicked out of a job before we had a license. I got kicked out of a job. This person hired me. We started working, and then she was like, "Oh wait, my boss just asked me, what's your license number?" And I was like, "I told you we didn't have a license." She's like, "Oh yeah, you gotta stop working." It was like, it just killed my whole day. Like, I brought 2 workers with me. Like, I thought like, this is my first little job.
Yeah.
Like, no. And I was like, damn, dude. And I ended up getting the license like 2 weeks later.
Did you call her back and be like,
I did.
You still got that job?
I tried to, and she was like, "Okay, we'll keep you in mind. Thank you." I was like, lost that one. And I was for like a big company too. It was like,
at least you tried, At least you gave it another call. Like, you didn't just totally blow it off.
Yeah, heck no. I was trying to keep that contact.
Nothing wrong with that. Yep. So on that note, now you mentioned your buddy on Instagram. So let's, where do you show your work at for the construction company?
So our construction company is called Gamboa Custom Remodeling. So, after our last name. So we just go GCR. You can find us on Instagram under Gamboa Custom Remodeling.
You have a website now too, right?
Yeah. It's GamboaCustomRemodeling.work. We did I'm trying to get that .com. We did it years ago, like when I was in high school, and the guy that we paid is not answered us. So I just was like, "Hey, what's up, man? I want that .com back, that domain." And But like back then, when I was like in high school, I didn't know crap about building a website or anything.
Yeah.
So now I got my buddy. He built me a website, and it's up and running. So hopefully we'll get that.
Get the .com.
Yeah, find the .com.
I'm sure it'll come along.
Yeah.
So we'll add that stuff to the description of the video too. So
Sure.
if anybody wants to check it out, they can.
Cool.
They
Thank
can
you.
do that. And I guess on that note, I guess we can wrap this one up.
Sounds good.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
See you guys on the next one.